what the fuck is libido?
We're going to go down rabbit holes.
Yeah,
we
ready.
love a rabbit hole. Sex drive actually doesn't exist. So many misconceptions, especially for women.
What the fuck is a somatic intimacy coach?
Why women lose desire for sex is because
it's probably why everyone wants to have more sex on vacation.
A little demo of what the clitoris looks like.
Do you think that means a relationship is doomed?
Are you just rage baiting me right now? I love this question so much.
Is your take on porn?
Deeper, bigger is not necessarily better. Myth bust.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready. I got a lifetime of knowledge.
Let me call Mimi.
All right. We're back.
Welcome to Actual Experts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Lundie.
And we don't have all the answers, so we are going to ask the questions.
And today we are asking, what the fuck is libido? Sexual health expert and self-proclaimed Libido Fairy, as she goes by, Hannah Deindorfer.
Yes, and I can't wait to hear what a libido fairy is and where that came from.
I know. She's amazing. We found her on Instagram. She's built an amazing following and platform on Instagram. And yeah, I would love to know how she got started, where the name came from, the Libido Fairy. And it's a topic we have not yet explored at all. Sexual
Not at
health,
all.
sexual drive, sex in general.
Yep.
So
Yep.
welcome.
Truly not explored both professionally and personally. I feel like it's like a topic that you rarely have a conversation about. So I'm very excited.
Yes, I know. And typically we sometimes start episodes by saying like, so Caitlin, tell us about your experience with this topic. Like, so tell us about your sex drive.
My libido.
Yeah. So maybe we're not quite there yet with our audience. However, I think everyone has probably experienced both high and low sex drives
Totally.
at some point in their lives. And so I'm curious what affects it, what's considered physiological versus hormonal versus mental, if you can control it, if it's something that you have no control over. I've said the same thing 4 times in different forms. But I do have some key facts and figures to help us get into it. Okay.
Let's hear.
Some interesting ones. So semi-unsurprisingly, according to the Journal of Women's Health, 1 in 3 women experience low sexual desire at some point in their lives. I honestly think it could be higher. 1 in 3? Yeah. Like, I feel like someone's lying at some point in their lives. Like, surely.
I know.
Like, that's just
That's so true.
A universal truth. But interestingly, according to PubMed, among U.S. women aged 30 to 70 who are in committed relationships, the prevalence of low sexual desire ranged from approximately 27% in premenopausal women to 52% in menopausal women. So quite a big gap, obviously, between like younger premenopausal to menopausal. So I'm curious if it's scientifically proven that menopause decreases your libido. I feel like we hear that a lot.
Yeah. I also want to know, in that vein around hormones, what birth control does.
Yeah, exactly. Interestingly, actually, my third fact, according to American Sexual Health Association, birth control and antidepressants can lower libido by up to 70%.
Yes, I was on anti-anxiety medication a year and a half ago, and that was literally the biggest effect for me. And I was like, I must change this medication.
Yeah. Like, well,
doctor.
See you never.
Yeah, literally.
I know. I started taking birth control when I was so young, like in college, or even trying to think if it was even, I don't think it was in high school. It was for my skin initially. It wasn't because I was sexually active. So I don't really remember if it was like a concentrated decrease because it wasn't something I was dealing with. But I mean, 70% is a big number. So it seems like there is direct correlation. But I want to hear from Hannah what she sees in terms of that. Also, interestingly, according to Healthline, men think about sex less frequently than the popular myth claims. A study found that men reported an average it's quite funny.
Yeah.
A study found that men reported on average 19 sexual thoughts per day, while women reported about 10 per day.
Interesting. 19. I mean, that's more than once an hour that you're awake.
That is true. It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. That's
also,
you're like on a Zoom call, you're like, do, like, activate the peen. Like, I'm like, what?
That is actually so
That's
funny.
wild.
And women report on average 10, which is arguably also quite a few throughout the day. I know. I feel like maybe we need to report back, like see if one day we're like consciously, but because it has to be like unconscious thought. You can't be thinking about tracking it because then you're going to think about it all the time.
I think the way that they track those things is like you have a clicker, and then when it comes to your mind, you like click it to like count it. That would be hilarious. Maybe
But
we need to
surely
get
if
each
you
other
had a
clickers.
clicker,
Yeah.
like wouldn't you be thinking about it all the time? I don't know. Maybe
I'm sure they have like a weighted probability to measure that.
yeah, or maybe they like light up. I don't know. Maybe they like put little
That's a good
things on your brain,
point.
which brings
Yeah.
me very interestingly to my next fun fact.
Yes.
According to the University of Sussex, neuroscientists found that the same parts of the brain light up during sexual arousal and when eating chocolate.
Makes total sense.
That tracks.
Makes total sense. Okay, I feel like we should ask her this question because I could be restating false news. But I was listening to another podcast with a sex expert, and they were saying the reason why people have foot fetishes is because the area in your brain that is triggered when your feet are touched is right next to your sex organs or some. It's like right next to your libido, not organs.
Yeah.
Sorry, no,
Your sex
nobes.
organs. Yeah, your little brain
Nodes?
brain
Brain nodes? I
no.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they're next to each other, which is why so many people have foot fetishes because it's literally right next door.
We should absolutely we're gonna do like a myth busting segment. So this
Yes.
episode is meant to be shorter
I'll write
than
it
our
down.
others. Hannah only has an hour to sit with us. So we're gonna keep it really tight. And we're gonna do a little section of like rapid fire myth busting. So write that down. I'm curious if she knows anything about that. But people have fetishes about a whole lot of weird things. So
They do.
who's to say? Finally, my last fun fact, which is also quite funny, is a 2023 YouGov poll found that 58% of millennials have discussed their zodiac sign with their partner, but only 36% have ever talked about their sex drive. So it's not like a regular topic of conversation, it sounds like,
Or a comfortable topic.
for many, many people. So that is
Yeah.
something I wanna ask Hannah about is, like, what do you do if you're in a happy, loving relationship, but you're experiencing low sex drive?
Yeah.
Like, the myth is that that means that you're not happy or you're not sexually attracted to your partner, and that's just like, that just can't be true. So what do you do in those cases? Is there anything you can do to increase it naturally? And, like, how do you talk to your partner without
Yeah.
offending anyone?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, that's actually good. The other myth, which was attached to birth control, is that I also heard that there's people who like come off birth control and then they're not attracted to their partner anymore because their hormones change so much. And they literally don't like the scent of their partner because their hormones are like completely different when they're off birth control.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. I've just heard it.
Put it on the myth list. I'm
Yes.
very curious about that
Scent.
one. Yes, pheromones. I know.
Yeah.
I was considering adding a couple questions about what's the food called? Aphrodisiac?
Oh
Aphrodisiac?
yeah. I thought you were gonna be like pineapple.
No, I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? Aphrodisiac.
Aphrodisiacs.
Yes, like, are there foods, is that a myth that there are foods like oysters
Exactly.
that naturally increase your sex drive? I think chocolate is also
I
considered
was about to say the only ones I can think of are oysters and chocolate, and I don't even know if chocolate is real.
aphrodisiacs. Substances believed to increase libido, sexual desire, or pleasure. And the term comes from the Greek goddess of love, Aphrodite. I didn't know that.
Oh, I love that.
That's fun. While many foods and herbs like oysters, chocolate, and ginseng are associated with aphrodisiac properties, scientific evidence for many of these claims is limited. Wah, wah. Some effects may be psychological, while others, like improved blood flow from nutrients in foods such as beets or certain nuts, have a plausible, though often minor, physical basis.
That's
Interesting. And it's
hilarious.
from
Just a
the
little
word
bit of blood flow.
Aphrodite. Who knew? Common
Just
examples of perceived aphrodisiacs are oysters, chocolate, strawberries, nuts like almonds and walnuts, avocado, ginseng, ginkgo biloba, maca root, chili peppers. Yeah, biloba. Biloba. Maca root, chili peppers, saffron, vanilla, and this is interesting, truffles, which have a scent that can be reminiscent of a male pheromone. I've never heard that before.
Me neither, and I disagree. Well, I don't really know what a male pheromone smells like, but I'm not smelling truffle often as when we're walking around.
No, I wouldn't say so. But, what's interesting is that both Luke and my dad hate truffles.
Oh.
Maybe they're picking up on the male pheromone.
Yeah.
Who's to say? Anyway, should I introduce you to Hannah, our actual expert?
Yes. Let's hear it. What's going on, Hannah?
So Hannah is a somatic intimacy coach. And as we learned in our last episode, What the Fuck is Therapy? Somatic means body. So we're learning new things. Hannah is a somatic intimacy coach and founder of the Libido Fairy, a platform helping women reconnect with their bodies, rebuild desire, and cultivate deeper intimacy, both with themselves and their partners. Hannah teaches that libido isn't just about sex. It's about connection, safety, and self-expression. And she combines nervous system regulation, body awareness, and practical communication tools to help people understand and reignite their libido in a healthy, shame-free way. We love it. We love it. I'm so excited to learn from her. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Let's bring her on.
Woohoo.
Please note that this pod is for educational purposes only. Nothing we say should be taken as financial, legal, or medical advice. Please do your own research, and when in doubt, ask an actual expert. You look very professional. I assume you've done this before.
Yeah.
This is not my first podcast, for sure.
Yeah, with all your online educational content and your Instagram, which has grown and is like popping off. How long have you been doing the Instagram thing?
Before I had the Libido Fairy account, I was doing a different account on Instagram that was it was like based on my name for like 5 years. And then this account I've had for about 2 years.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so cool. So thank you so much for taking the time. We're so excited to get into this topic. We've published 7 episodes so far and have not touched anything near sexual health or sex drive or libido as a whole. So this is new territory for us, and we're really excited to have you on.
It's going to be one of your most listened to episodes, I'm sure.
I'm sure. I think so. I know we started off we do a bit of an intro, so we've introduced you already to the audience. Okay, and typically with different topics, I'll say, so, Caitlin, do you go to therapy, for example, was our last episode. And I was like, I don't know if we can start this off by saying, so Caitlin, tell me about your sex drive. But, we'll get into it. This will probably be one of the more vulnerable ones, I assume. But like I mentioned, so we run these typically where one of us, between the two of us, does the research for the episode, runs the interview. That's me. And then Caitlin has done absolutely no research. She doesn't know a thing about the topic or yourself or the Libido Fairy. Yeah. She's going to be asking all the questions that those at home are wondering, behind the scenes. So yes, to dive right in, tell us a little bit about what led you to start the Libido Fairy.
Well, I think that I like to trigger people a little bit. I think that's part of my personality is I like taboo. I like things that are a little bit edgy, and my personal history also got me into it. So I struggled with sex for a really long time in many different ways. My first sexual relationship, I was really young, and it was coerced and not very positive for me at all. And then most of my sexual relationships through college were drunk or for validation or to get someone to like me. And I really didn't enjoy sex that much for myself until I was in my late 20s and actually started learning about sex. Right. I didn't have an orgasm with a partner until I was 26. So there's all of these challenges that I had with sex, including losing my libido when I was 26 and having this consistent pattern of being in a long-term relationship, feeling really excited and sexual at the beginning of a relationship, and then that basically vanishing into nowhere after 3 months, even though I really would like my partner, love my partner. And after multiple cycles of that and having a really, really bad breakup, I was like, I need to figure this out. What is going on with sex? What is this? And libido and desire and my body. And everything that I learned it just blew my mind. I was like, wow, there is terrible education about this.
Yeah.
So many misconceptions, so much misunderstood when it comes to turn on and desire, especially for women.
Yeah.
And I started when I was going through my discovery journey, I was sharing a ton of it online and people loved learning about it from me. And so I'm like, all right, let's get a bunch of certifications and do this for real.
No, I love it. And that's a big reason behind why we started this podcast, was just that there's so many topics that that impact women every day that we just don't know enough about. And so we're totally behind you on that. And I think, I'm sorry to hear about your early sexual experiences that kind of led you to this, but I think most of those are more common than any of us admit. Not having an orgasm until your late 20s. I think that's super common. I think feeling coerced or pressured, certainly with sex when you're younger, I think is more prevalent than not. So I think a lot of people listening will definitely identify with you there. So you spoke about getting some certifications then and becoming an actual expert, as we say. What the fuck is a somatic intimacy coach? What exactly is that? And how do you become one?
That's a really good question. So a somatic intimacy coach, how I would describe it is the way that you can look at sex or approach libido challenges can be from multiple angles. You could look at it from a relationship dynamic angle, which is what most couples therapists do. They try to fix the relational component between men and women. You could look at it from a hormonal component, which is what most of the medical society does. They try to prescribe HRT or medication or some type of supplement to increase libido because that's the lens that they're looking through. Mm. The frame that I come with when it comes to sex and intimacy is one that is based in the body and understanding how pleasure works in the body, how turn on and arousal work in the body, and empowering a woman to understand her anatomy. And when she understands what I like, what I want, what turns me on, how to get turned on, how to pleasure myself, how to communicate those things to my partner, everything around her sex life and her confidence really increases. So that's the lens that I'm coming through. Also, I'm basing a lot of my skills and tools in a lens of the nervous system and supporting the nervous system in feeling relaxed, open, because that's the place where all pleasure is going to come from as well.
Totally. Super interesting. And one of the questions I think when doing research for this was looking at what actually influences libido. You mentioned hormones, but also mental and physical, and almost it sounds like potentially spiritual. So I want to get into that. But before we do, help us define what the fuck is libido. I think a lot of people just equate it to our sex drive. Is it the scientific term for sex drive, or is there more to it than that?
Libido is the amount you want to have sex, is the way that I would describe it. Sex drive actually doesn't exist. That's not even a thing that exists. So a drive is something that you need to do to live. So hunger is a drive, thirst is a drive, sleep is a drive. All of those things are required to continue to live, but you don't need an orgasm to keep living.
Right.
So we equate sex wrongly with these drives and think that we have sex because we have some biological urge to do so, but that's actually not true. The reason why we feel compelled to have sex is based on how much reward we're getting from the activity. So if we get a lot of reward from sex and it's like highly motivating and enticing to us, we feel a compulsion to go back and do it more. Right. That is also one of my underlying theses for why women lose desire for sex, is because the way that we have sex, or way that we are taught to have sex for movies and TV shows, is centered primarily around what will be most stimulating and exciting for someone who has a penis, not someone who has a vulva.
Right.
So we're going to go down rabbit holes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
We love a rabbit hole. Yeah. We love a rabbit hole.
Okay. Yeah. So interesting. So take us through a little bit of that, and maybe through your work with Somatic sex coaching. What actually, in your opinion, your actual expert opinion, influences libido? Is it purely hormonal, or what are the physical, emotional, spiritual aspects of it as well?
It's so much. You can't look at hormones without looking at nervous system. Like if you're stressed and constantly dysregulated and in a state of shutdown or freeze, or in a state of constant anxiety and worry, that's going to impact your hormones. And your hormones are essentially just signals that your brain is sending that tell your body what to do. All of those signals get out of whack if your nervous system is messed up. So that influences your sex hormones. But then also your relationship impacts how much stress you have. If you're mentally and emotionally putting pressure on yourself to have sex because you're afraid that your partner is going to leave you,
Right.
that's going to influence your nervous system. It's going to influence your hormones. It's everything. You have to look at the entire human as an ecosystem, from their emotions, their mental health, their physical health, their stress levels, their
Right.
nervous system, and their relationship to really be able to know what's going to influence their libido. I think that libido is one of the fundamental signs of health.
Mhm.
If you feel like you want to have sex, or you feel like you want to express yourself in the world, like I equate it with aliveness and joy. And like turn on is feeling alive and joyful. It's not even necessarily, to me, like always being like you want to have sex all the time.
Right.
It's more like you have this vitality, this fertility, this like drive to express yourself and creative ways in life.
Yeah, totally.
So influence, all of them.
Yeah.
All of them influence.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and the fact that you equate it almost with a sense of safety and health effectively, like that it's just a sign that you're in a good mental, physical, spiritual, emotional space, which I don't think people do most often. So would you say that that's the same for men? How do you see really the differences between men and women in that way?
I work primarily with women,
Yeah.
so I don't do a lot, like I don't focus a lot of my attention on how men work with libido or all of that. But what I would say is that I think it's the same. I think our vitality is intertwined with sexuality and aliveness, and I think that's true regardless of your sex or gender.
Makes sense.
Probably why everyone always wants to have more sex on vacation, because you're
Yes.
relaxed and you're feeling good and you're the best version of yourself. So it makes totally sense.
100%.
You're usually tan. You're
Yes.
lucky. We can talk about the
And you're like
physicality too.
outside of life stressors, like you're outside of your normal environment. A lot of times variety and novelty is really good for stimulating your largest sex organ, which is your brain. And so, yeah, all of that combines to make vacation sex better
Very
than regular
good.
sex.
Oh, super interesting. Okay, I wanna get all your tips and tricks for when you're experiencing potentially low libido, but you mentioned obviously women being your main clientele. How do women's cycles then, speaking of hormones, affect libido? I feel like we hear about that a lot, and we need to do an episode. We've been saying like, what the fuck is a luteal phase? Like you hear that you're like luteal versus follicular or whatever. There has to be some, I think, correlation. But yeah, how do women's cycles affect their libido?
It's so different for every single woman. And like some people will experience pain during ovulation, and some people will experience more energy during their luteal phase. It's hard to make generalizations like that because everyone's body is so different. But what I will say, as far as like libido during a woman's cycle, I think that there's like this myth that is perpetuated in our society that like when women are ovulating, they're so horny.
Yes.
And like the rest of their cycle, they're just not. And there's so much variety in women that like it's just not, you just can't generalize like that.
Yeah.
But what I would say is like being in tune with your body and your energy levels throughout your cycle, regardless of where you are, is super important for knowing how much energy you have available to engage in what type of intimacy you want to have.
Sure.
So something that I teach all of my clients is have a list or a menu of a bunch of different options for the ways that you can be intimate with your partner. Then maybe if you are earlier in your cycle and you have a lot of energy and you are turned on and you want to explore something a little bit spicier, you have that option. But then later in your cycle, if you're experiencing fatigue or you like don't want to be touched at all, you have options for being intimate with your partner that are a match for that level.
Yeah.
So it's not like okay, when you're ovulating, do kink exploration.
Yeah.
And when you're luteal, only cuddle.
Yeah.
Like it's really going to just depend so much on being in tune with yourself and your relationship and what your energy levels feel good, and having a variety of activities that can really match whatever you're feeling or whatever you're in the mood for.
What does that look like? So you just said cuddling, but when someone's at a phase in their cycle where they just aren't feeling like that kind of maybe heightened level of intimacy, what is on that list that is a more maybe neutral space for people?
I really like a bath with a partner or a shower with a partner where, like, okay, it's sensual, we're naked together, but maybe you're not touching me, you're just like admiring me and you're close to me, and I'm also like nourishing my body with a bath or a shower. I would also say, like, yeah, cuddling could work, or just like laying side by side could work. I also love getting my hair brushed.
Oh,
Again, if you don't want to be touched, then maybe that's not the thing that you want, but like having my hair brushed or having my partner read to me, like read a book to me, or even like read an erotic story to me. Or if I don't want to be touched, but I am maybe a little horny, but I like don't want you to be involved in it, mutual masturbation is a really great option for that phase where, like, you can be over there and you can watch me and you can masturbate, but I'm going to be over here in my own space touching my own body because I don't feel like that close. Like, I don't want to be on top of you.
That's so funny because I feel, or it's not funny, but I feel like there's so often where women are like, actually get away from me. I like, just don't touch me. It's like overstimulating and I can't handle it. So I think being realistic about that and then finding other ways to feel that intimacy. What would you say in the case of, so say a woman has been experiencing this, she's a client of yours, you give her this advice, but she finds that every time she's in an intimate position with her partner, like let's say taking a shower, the expectation is that it will lead to sex. I find that's probably most common with men where they're like, we're naked, it's happening. What
or
do
we're
you
making out, this is going to mean
Yeah,
sex.
or we're making out, like,
Yeah.
and I'm turned on, so here we go. What are you saying though? Like, how do you communicate that?
Totally. I mean, I think that there's a couple things that can really help with that expectation. A lot of times in a scenario like that, what will happen is because a woman knows or has a perception that if I kind of go down this road, my partner is going to have an expectation of sex for me, she will actually actively stop engaging in flirtation and touching and making out and kind of pull her energy back away because she doesn't want to turn her partner on and give them the wrong idea and then have to go down that road of like disappointing them and rejecting them and blah, blah, blah. That, however, is problematic because for a lot of women, it's those things that actually will help her feel excited for sex. And if she removes herself from all of those potential options, then she likely is not ever going to be in the mood either.
Right.
Yeah.
So the solve is two parts. It's one, just having a lot of free-flowing sexual energy in the relationship without it leading to more. So like lots of makeouts, lots of kissing, lots of affection, lots of flirtation, butt grabs, like sexual jokes, sexual innuendos, like not pulling that back when you feel like you're not in the mood, but just clearly setting boundaries. Like flirting and playing, and then just letting your partner know ahead of time, like, hey, by the way, I really want to make out with you, and I don't want anything. I'm not really open to anything more than that right now. But is that okay with you? Are you cool if we like tease and make out and kiss and stop there?
Right.
Most people that I know are like, yes, of course. Like, honor yourself, like honor your boundaries. I want to play with you. I want to flirt with you. I want to be engaging with you in that way because it's so affirming.
Right.
It's affirming for the relationship.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So communication in those cases is probably just where that begins. Do you think
It has to.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Because that's essential to the process. Would you say that if you're in a happy couple or a client comes to you and she says, I'm in love with my partner, I'm attracted to him, I just find that I have low libido. I don't really feel like doing it. At the end of the day, I'm tired. But my partner seems to want it all the time, for example. Do you think like that mismatch ever means that the relationship is doomed if you go have this conversation and say, I want to be intimate with you in different ways. And the partner's like, okay, but I'm still just down to have sex. Like, how do you approach that with couples that really just seem to have like mismatched libido?
So that's actually my primary avatar. That's like the number one person that I work with the most. And so there's some work to be done on both sides in a relationship like that where there's a desire mismatch. For the person who has a lot of desire or really high desire, oftentimes part of the problem or the challenge is that they, and this is not always true, but a lot of times they have equated sexual fulfillment with validation, approval, love, and being seen, being appreciated. They've like wrapped up all of these essential human needs into sex, which a lot of our society does too. A lot of our society just in general like kind of merges those things together. And so it's not that partner's fault that they've, taken that on, but there is potentially some work for them to untangle their worthiness and their validation as a human and their value in the relationship and the ways they get love and connection from sex and find other ways to fill up those buckets, either inside of the relationship or in relationships with friends or in their work or in spirituality. There's like all these other ways that you can get a lot of those needs met. So like there's some work on the higher libido partner to do that, even with themselves, like building a deeper sexual relationship with themselves, perhaps too. So that can take some of the pressure off of their partner to be the only person that's fulfilling all of those bundled buckets of needs. For the person who has lower desire, there's an opportunity to look into what is the reason why sex isn't motivating for me? Like, what is it in particular about the sex that I'm being offered or the sex that I'm experiencing or my history with sex that makes it something that is not nourishing, rejuvenating, exciting, fulfilling, and rewarding to me in a way that's meaningful enough that I would want to engage with it regularly? In a relationship where there's like just natural desire discrepancy like that, there's always going to be a need for collaboration.
Sure.
Like both people have to decide like, okay, my natural tendency, which all of my relationships, I've been the lower desire person, including my marriage that I am now in. There is, for me, always an understanding that my partner is going to want sex more frequently than I will. And it's up to both of us to collaborate together to be kind and understanding of the other person's preferences while also finding ways to have those collaborations when we do come together be super rewarding and fun and fulfilling for both of us to incentivize us to keep coming back and to incentivize us to keep wanting to give to the other person. If I'm the lower desire person and I'm only ever having sex to please my partner, eventually I'm not going to want to have sex anymore, ever. So that person, it's really, really important that if they want to stay in that relationship with the higher desire partner, it's important for them to start to do the work to figure out how can I engage with sex in a way that actually feels really good for me, not just something that I do out of obligation.
Can I ask you a question in there, Lundie?
Please, yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about how sex and what we see in the movies is so built for people with a penis versus people with a vulva. And it sounds like what you're saying right now is also figuring out what does sex look like for someone with a vulva and how do you make it more rewarding? What does that look like?
Yay. I love this question so much.
Give it to us.
Because there's like a little bit of like anatomy that can come in here that I think is really valuable.
Yeah.
Most of the kind of sex that we see in movies and even like romance books and a lot of like the media that a lot of women are now consuming, like smut books and things like that, portray a scenario which is sexual, which is like all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's a spontaneous urge for two people to have sex. And then she's instantly soaking wet because he smirks at her or something. And then there's like no warm up. There's just like instant penis and vagina.
Yeah.
She's like coming within moments from a penis.
Totally. What a dream. I'm just kidding.
And then like she's having multiple orgasms just from a penis.
Yeah.
And then they're climaxing together and then it's over.
Yeah.
And I think that like that portrayal as like the ideal sexual experience is pretty damaging because it's so unrealistic and so unattainable for any woman, pretty much. Like I would say maybe there's like 0.0001% of women that like that sexual experience is like reasonable.
Totally. I have a friend who told me that is her sex drive, and also like she can like climax and have an orgasm just from penetration, like is so developed in that way. And I remember literally my jaw hit the floor when she told me this. I'm like, that is wild. That's what I said. I was like, oh my God.
Love that for you.
Yeah.
Like good for her.
Totally.
I love that for her.
Totally.
And also it's important that any woman whose pleasure and sexuality does not look like that is also normal.
Totally.
Is also so within the realm of healthy and normal. And the parts of the anatomy that I really want to get into are like, okay, if it's just penis and vagina intercourse as like the main event of sex, the reason why men will always be like, yes, let's just keep doing more of that is because all of their most sensitive tissue all around the head of the penis and the shaft of the penis is being stimulated during penis and vagina intercourse. All of their nerves, all of their pleasure nerves are going off during that experience, which is like what makes it feel so good for them. Like, great. They can get a full, complete pleasure experience just from that. For women, the places on our vulva that are the most pleasurable, the most nerve-rich areas are on the clitoris. Well, it's actually all the clitoris. So the clitoral tip, which is the part of the clitoris that is exposed, or on some women's bodies, it's at the top of the vulva covered by a clitoral hood. So it's not fully exposed. Like that's the spot that I think most women and men understand and reference as like that's the clitoris. The clitoris is actually much larger. It's all of the tissue that is also. I'm just gonna get. Is there a video for this?
There is. Sure is.
Okay. Great. This is like a little demo of kind of what the like the whole clitoris looks like. So there's like the tip of the clitoris at the top of the vulva, and then the legs of the clitoris actually sit behind the labia and say like this is the vaginal opening. The most nerve-rich area for someone who has a vulva are that like 1 to 2 inches right around the vaginal opening and right behind the vaginal opening up and in, because that's where the clitoris is. That's where all the nerve-rich areas are. So if you look at like, okay, so this is penis and vagina intercourse.
Yeah, it doesn't touch it.
We're barely
listening at home. It doesn't touch it at all.
Yeah,
barely stimulating. So like we're not really stimulating those 1 to 2 inches that are the most nerve-rich area right around the inside of the labia. We're also often not stimulating the tip of the clitoris, which is where the most nerve endings are.
Yeah.
And so if you're just like going in and out, like it's just not a 10 out of 10 experience for a lot of women. Also, like biologically, it makes so much sense that the inside of the vagina is not sensitive because a baby's head comes out of there.
Correct.
We do not want more nerve endings inside of the vagina because that will equal more pain when the baby comes out.
So never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So like deeper, bigger is not necessarily better when it comes to penises.
Yeah.
Myth bust.
Myth bust on that one.
Funny. Yeah, I never really thought of it that way. Like biologically, internally, it's not actually supposed to feel good up there.
It's definitely not. Have you ever been like bumped in your bumped a little too hard up in there?
Yeah.
In your cervix? Yeah.
Not good.
Very painful.
Yeah.
Not good.
Really. Wow. Okay. Well, that was very helpful. Caitlin, was your very important question answered? So interesting.
Yes. So that's the areas that are the most sensitive. So are you saying that that's what needs to be stimulated?
Correct. So every woman, again, is very different as far as which parts of those areas will be the most pleasurable for her. for some women, going directly onto stimulating the tip of the clitoris can feel really, really overstimulating. Like there's so many nerve endings there that can feel actually painful. So like just placing a hand on top of your pubic bone, and like that's why humping or rubbing or grinding on materials can feel a lot easier than just having like direct clitoral stimulation, because there's a lot of nerve endings there. But you want that like rubbing on the outside as something that can be really pleasurable. Additionally, if you want to try to stimulate those like 1 to 2 inches that are around the vaginal opening, something called shallowing can be really pleasurable for a woman. And it's literally just sticking your finger or sticking a toy or a penis around those 1 to 2 inches, just rubbing and exploring. But yeah, like during penetration, anything that's going to add stimulation to the tip of the clitoris or the nipples is going to aid in feeling more pleasure for women during penetration.
So would some of your advice potentially to women, female clients who are experiencing low libido, would you say go home and figure out what you like before even trying it with a partner? Like if someone hasn't experienced a lot of like self pleasuring, masturbation?
Yeah, I think both. I think so. An exercise that we do inside of my program is called pleasure mapping. We do vulva mapping and pleasure mapping. So pleasure mapping is just exploring like touch on your whole body to start to be able to hear your body's signals of yes and no. A lot of times we're a bit out of touch with how our body wants to be touched, what feels good to us. Do we want firmer touch, lighter touch? Do we know when our body is telling us no or yes more? And so just exploring your touch with your own body in a really like low pressure, non-erotic way that's just like loving and pleasurable is like step 1. And then step 2 of that would be get a mirror, sit down in front of that mirror with your vulva, and then explore your vulva. Poke, prod, bring lube for the experience, and play and touch different parts and like see how your body responds, and like explore. Look at where your clitoris is. Look at like where your vaginal opening is. Like see if you can identify what parts of your vulva feel pleasurable to touch, so that then you can share with a partner, hey, like I like it when I have harder pressure here and gentle pressure here, or I like when you go in a circle in this way or back and forth in this way, and you can like instruct your partner more clearly on how you want to be touched. I would also say that exploring on your own is always just going to be so different than with a partner too. And so what you like on your own might not be a one-to-one perfect translation about with what feels really, really good with a partner. So I think in either scenario, going in with this mindset of I have no idea what I like here. Let's like start from scratch and let's explore each other's bodies as if we've never done this before and see, what does this button do? What does this button do? Like, let's explore and play in that way and have this be a fun exploration instead of just kind of defaulting to what we see in movies, like how we think that it should go.
Totally. You mentioned like taking a mirror and exploring your own feminine body. I feel like that's been talked about more so in recent years. And the response is typically like, I've never looked down there. I don't want to look down there. Like, I'm not interested. I feel like women are just like not in tune at all with our bodies, but particularly our vaginas. What would you say to a client who isn't in like, just like is a little uncomfy or doesn't like how her vagina looks or thinks that vaginas are gross? I feel like that's like a common
common. It's so common. Every single not every single. I would say 80% of my clients who I have go through this exercise feel a lot of resistance towards it at first. Fear, discomfort, uncertainty about what they're going to find. And then most of them, when they go through it, will either have an experience where they're like, wow, like I feel so sad that I've been so disconnected from myself for so long that I've never taken the time to really appreciate myself. Or they will feel a disgust reaction come up. And in those scenarios, like, okay, like let's examine that. Like, what about it? Where's the disgust coming from? Is that yours? Did you learn that from someone that your vulva is disgusting? Did you have a partner at one point that told you smelled bad or you looked weird, or maybe you watched porn and your vulva doesn't look like the vulvas that you see in porn,
Right.
and so you're interpreting it as bad or wrong or different, right? Like there's opportunity for healing when we face discomfort and when we go into the areas that feel scary that we want to avoid. And so oftentimes, even if someone is going into this experience with a lot of fear and you have a reaction that is not, oh my gosh, I love myself so much more after this, I feel so happy, there's learning that can happen on the other side of that. And if you can get curious about, okay, why did these emotions come up? Like, what actually is causing me to feel this way towards myself? Because this is your body.
Yeah.
This is yours. Like, yeah,
totally.
I don't know.
You mentioned porn. What is your take as a somatic sex coach on porn? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's ruined us all and has melted our brains, and men especially? Do you find that everyone's desensitized and has like unrealistic expectations? What do you think?
I don't hate porn because I feel like it can be really, it's an opportunity for curiosity, liberation, and learning if it's approached with respect. And there are a bunch of like great porn sites now that are doing porn in a more ethical way where they're paying their actors appropriately and they're also like creating porn that is more realistic. Obviously, there's a subset of porn that is not that. Most of porn that's on the internet is not that. And I think it really, just with everything in life, it's like anything can be a medicine or a poison. It really depends on the dosage and the intention going into it. So like if you're like, "Hey, I want to look at some videos of people having sex because I find it arousing. I have a little bit of like a voyeuristic tendency. I like to like it turns me on to watch other people and I want to learn. I want to see what other people are doing and like what other people's bodies look like and explore porn from that way." So healthy. So great. And you're like, "Oh yeah, I want to watch it with my partner and like watch it together and like see what we could learn and what we both are turned on by." Like that's such a healthy approach to porn, and one that I would say like if that's the way you want to approach it, go for it. Like there are some great sites out there that have that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think that there's a lot of dark stuff that happens in the porn industry, a lot of women getting taken advantage of, a lot of like addiction that can come up in that space, a lot of instant gratification. And I don't know, I think it's tough to moderate a lot of that stuff, similarly to like the way we struggle to moderate our consumption of alcohol or nicotine or weed or anything that's really bad for us. And so, yeah, it really depends on how you approach it.
Everything in moderation, as we say, you know.
Totally. And like audio erotica, smut books, like those are all technically porn as well. And a lot of women use those tools as a way to create more arousal and turn on. And it's really like a lot of it has really positively impacted women's liberation and their relationships. And so, I don't think anything is my main life view is like nothing's really black or white.
Yeah, exactly. And knowledge is power, as we say a lot on this podcast. So the more education, the better. Okay, in this next kind of section, I have, Caitlin, can I jump into some myths to bust? Okay, I want to run through like kind of rapid fire of some either common misconceptions or myths, and you can either help us bust them or potentially confirm them as our actual expert. So the first is that it takes women significantly longer to get turned on than men. Is this true or a myth?
It depends.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of that. To be
It depends. I know. It's like the most annoying answer. The myth comes from the fact that there are multiple types of desire, and those desire types are typically labeled spontaneous desire and responsive desire. Spontaneous desire is a lot of what we see in movies where there's a sudden urge to want to have sex and then arousal happens and then pleasurable stimulation and sex happens after that. So it's very like brain first, I want to have sex, body turns on second. There's another type of desire, which is responsive desire, where there's pleasurable stimulation, erotic context, enough relaxation in the body, sexual neutrality, and then the body becomes aroused, and then the brain goes, oh, I want to have sex. That's called responsive desire, and it's also equally valid.
Fair.
The split on this percentage is crazy. So about 85% of women experience predominantly responsive desire, compared to about 15% of men experience responsive desire, and it's flip-flopped. About 85% of men experience spontaneous desire, 15% of women experience spontaneous desire. So it's, again, I'm going to put it in a biological frame so that we can like understand this contextually. Women experience the risk of pregnancy. Our bodies are biologically wired to have more like checks and balances in place before we feel like we want to have sex, because we carry the risk of death in pregnancy and the burden of caring for a child if we do get pregnant.
Right.
So responsive desire is an amazing biological positive influence for us, because it will require a partner to actually kind of put in the work a little bit to get to a place where we feel like we want to have sex with them, which will set us up for better partners, potentially someone that may be more likely to take care of a baby if we do get pregnant. So it's not that, yeah. So it's not that it takes us like a long time. There's another biological component to this too. I'm going to spit more biology. So the typical time that it takes for a woman's body to reach peak arousal is also different than a man's body, because there are things that biologically happen in a woman's body that prepare her for penetration. The size of our vagina literally widens and lengthens, which is crazy. Again, making room in there. Lubrication happens. The blood flow takes a little bit longer to really engorge our labia and our clitoris and the tip of the clitoris. Like all of that changes biologically in that 20 to 30 minute window. Nipples become erect, like flush happens. The arousal literally does take longer, but it's also to protect our body from injury, specifically the lubrication, the blood flow, and the way that the vagina widens and lengthens during that period of time prevents our vulva from tearing during penetration. And those like little micro, if it hurts when you pee after you have sex, it's because there are micro tears in your
You need more
vulva,
lube.
which you need more lube and probably more time.
Fair. So interesting. That inverse of 15 and 85%, like just having the knowledge of that alone, both men and women, I feel like would approach sex so differently. That's so interesting. Okay, next potential myth. Medications like birth control or antidepressants have significant negative increase on libido. I know this is also probably case by case depending on the person, but do you find that that tends to happen?
So birth control is definitely changing your hormones, of course. Also, different types of antidepressants can impact hormones as well. I think the category of antidepressants, which is SSRI in particular, has an impact on vaginal lubrication and ability to get wet and ability to experience pleasure. Like there's some like numbness factors that start to play in that we see pretty consistently with some SSRIs. But across the board, the biggest influence is always going to be sexual satisfaction on desire.
Fair.
Like medication may play a role as far as like hormonal birth control or antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication, but we've helped in my program plenty of people who are on those medications to just actually connect to their body, increase the amount of pleasure they're experiencing during sex, and that impacts their desire more than it would to just get off a medication.
Totally. Makes total sense. Okay, super interesting. Which brings us then to our next potential fact, which is that libido automatically declines with age. I know you mentioned menopause and perimenopause, but are we all doomed from the time we're like 35? No.
Nope. Actually, I anecdotally know many women who are over 50 who are having the best sex of their life. The best sex of their life. Also, I think there's some crazy statistics about like the amount of STIs that are transferred in retirement communities.
I've heard this.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know the exact facts on that, but
that's so funny.
It's a myth. It's a myth. I think that typically there actually is an opportunity, especially for women who are done having children. After you are done having children and you're going through perimenopause, there's this huge opportunity to reconnect with your body and relearn what gives you pleasure, what you want, and have a reclamation of your sexual expression, because your body is so different at that point in time going into menopause than it is before. There's an opportunity for a huge increase in sexual pleasure and desire at that point.
Which we love. Okay, love to hear
Which
that.
we love.
Love to hear that. Okay, next one. You should always be in the mood if you really love your partner.
Are you just rage baiting me right now?
Just to throw a zinger at you, you know. I assume false.
Thank you for, you just answered that one yourself. I mean, the researcher who's done the most amazing work on this is Esther Perel. You can look into a lot of her books, specifically Mating in Captivity, that talk about how all of her research is about how love and desire are completely different functions. Specifically around like love happens as we become more intimate and more familiar with someone. And there's like a closeness and a connection that happens. There's more depth of love that happens in that space. Desire happens when we are unfamiliar, when there's uncertainty, unknown, something is different from us.
Right.
Like we can't feel desire for something that we are. It has to be something that is different from us. And so I kind of see it like an inhale and an exhale. Like intimacy and connection and closeness is this inhale part of the spectrum of like, let's come together. And then desire is created when there's an exhale, when there's separateness, when there's curiosity, uncertainty, novelty, and that tension between you and I are different.
Right. Makes total sense. It's kind of like when you're dating around and you feel like the like immediate sexual attraction, like want to rip your clothes off vibe. And then when you start to date someone more seriously and longer term, you're like, does it mean I don't like them anymore because we've lost that like maybe sexual passion or mystery that causes that, but it's just like a sense of closeness and like familiarity. So it's interesting to hear that scientifically they actually are like counterintuitive.
100%. Also, one of my mentors used to say, Annie Lala, shout out Annie Lala. She always says that like, if you are having really, really hot sex with someone and it's like the hottest, craziest sex ever, a lot of times it's because your wounds are fucking.
That's so crazy.
Wow. Put that on a t-shirt.
I have personal direct experience with that. And I think that like the thing that's causing it, the mechanism that's causing that is because there's so much tension and uncertainty in toxic relationships of like, you might be gone tomorrow. And so this might be our last moment together. And like, there's just this like unconscious desire to merge with what is most painful to us. If we want to look into some psychology in that, it's like,
that is so interesting.
So the person you have hottest sex with might not be the person that you want to be married to.
Totally.
But you can have hot sex with the person you marry if you create that.
There you go. Yeah, you were kind of speaking about it earlier where like some people who have a lot of sex may be doing that as a way to fulfill like their fulfillment or like their affirmation. And I remember an old friend of mine who was having more sex than I certainly ever was in her relationship, which made me feel bad about mine because I was like, well, we're certainly not having that much sex. She was like, it's the only time I feel, it's the like only way that I feel close to her. She wasn't getting words of affirmation or the other love languages. And she was like, the only way I feel close to him is if we're having sex. And the relationship didn't last. Let's just put it that way. But
totally. Like sex is like one tool in the relational toolkit for creating closeness.
Yeah.
Like if you view it in this way, that's like it's an opportunity for us in our relationship to create even more depth and connection and express our creativity and play together and discover new things about each other and explore and learn about each other or express our spirituality, then there's all these other ways that can get met too.
Right.
And so like I talk a lot to people who just recently had a baby and they're like so worried about their sex life postpartum. I'm like, well, what was the point of having sex anyway?
Yeah.
Like if it was just to have a baby, then don't worry about it. You don't need to have another baby right now. You're good.
Totally.
But if it's to get all these other things, what are some creative ways that we can get those other intimate needs met in the relationship for now in this period where sex isn't an opportunity?
Wow, I feel like that's a whole other episode is postpartum sex of like, how do you make yourself feel beautiful and sexy and all of those things again after delivering a human into this world?
Yeah, like desire.
There's a whole niche.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, pin in that one for our part 2. It sounds to me like there's part 2, maybe part 3 and part 4 from this episode alone, but this has been amazing. Okay, my final myth for you to bust, which may also count as rage bait, is that low libido means something is wrong with you.
Oh, it makes me so sad. It makes me sad because almost every single student that comes in feels that way, feels like there's some deficiency, something that's broken. And a lot of that is exacerbated because typically she's in a relationship with someone who has a high libido. And I think that most of the world says if you're having sex a lot, then you're healthy. If you want sex a lot, then you're healthy. And if you don't, then there is something wrong with you. And it's a really fine balance that I walk because I do help people to want more sex. That is part of what my mission is. But my caveat, what's really important is like, well, why do you want it? Do you want more sex because you want to feel fulfilled and joyful and have this part of your life be nourishing to you? Or do you want it because you think that you're supposed to be a good partner or there's some shame attached there?
Totally.
For the people who feel like there's something wrong with you because you don't want a lot of sex, there isn't. Like, it's totally okay to want sex in whatever amount you want it. If you want to want it more, great. If you don't want to want it more, great.
Totally.
Like it's okay. So, like your relationship to sex is so personal, and I just want to encourage everyone to take the time to think about what sex really means to you, what you ideally want to get out of sexual experiences, and if you're not getting that out of your sexual experiences, that's what I would point you towards, not just I need to increase frequency because that's the marker of health. Like pleasure is the measure, pleasure is the point. That's what we want to be aiming for is like, what's the reward that you want to personally get out of your relationship with sex? And let's shoot for that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Caitlin, did you have a myth or two that you wanted to get into before we ask our last question?
We did answer one of mine, but I said to Lundie in our pre-recording that I had heard on another podcast, someone was saying that the reason foot fetishes are such a big thing is because it's close in your brain to where your like sexual triggers are. Is that true?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That sounds crazy
We'll have to do
me.
some research.
I heard it. I don't know if I can say this. I heard it on Armchair Experts. They were interviewing a sex expert there, and she was saying foot fetishes are such a thing because wherever like your stimulation in your brain is for your foot is right next to where your stimulation is for your like vulva, peen, whatever, sexual. I don't know. What we'll do
I don't know.
Here's
my assumption.
Yeah.
Like my assumption is foot fetishes are a thing for the same reason that all fetishes are a thing. We think that it's bad and wrong, and we obsess over that shame. And we're like, that shame, that wrong, that bad, that is what all of kink is. It's like, oh, this is naughty. I shouldn't do this. And that is exciting.
Yeah.
That turns us on.
Totally.
That's what I think it is.
Okay.
Feet are dirty. They're gross.
Yes.
They're close to the ground.
Yeah.
And that makes them like taboo.
Yeah.
It makes them like wrong to want it.
Totally.
And I think that's where foot fetishes come from. I don't think it has anything to do with like where it's located in your brain. I think that's like some pseudoscience stuff, I think.
That's another episode is what the fuck is a fetish? So we're adding to the list now because that's a whole other thing. Okay, amazing. This has been so interesting. I can't even tell you. I've learned so much. But we like to end every episode by asking if there's one thing that every woman should know about her libido. What would you say?
Oh, it's so hard.
You've given us
such
so
a hard
many
question.
good, like true, like ways for women to reflect. So it's hard to narrow it down to just one. But
yeah, if there's anything that I would want a woman to know about her libido, it's that it is going to change throughout your life, and to see your sexuality as an adventure and an unfolding, like something to keep discovering new every single day, rather than something that is a burden. Like your complexity and richness in the way that your libido is always going to change and your desires will always be changing, that is exciting. It means you always have something new to discover in sex.
Totally. Yeah, what a fun way to look at it instead of like another thing that we have to worry that we're doing wrong, you know? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Hannah, the Libido Fairy, thank you so much for this. This has been truly so interesting. I know everyone listening will have learned so much. We'll send people to your page. You do much more educational work over on your Instagram. Sounds like we might have a part 2 coming up if you'll have us. But thank you. Truly, this has been amazing. And we can't wait to get it out there. Thanks.
No, I appreciate it.
Amazing.
Thank you. So nice to meet you.
So good to meet you too.
Welcome to the Debrief, where we discuss things we needed a little more clarity on.
Well, to anyone who's watching and not listening, it is the end of a very long week.
Yes.
And so this is the result of that. And you know what? We're going with it.
She looks great. She looks beautiful.
But libido.
I know. Libido. So fun.
Our first sex-focused episode. It was so fun.
It was so
Hannah's
fun.
so fun. She makes it so comfortable and so easy to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, we got into it all.
We did.
We got into
mutual masturbation.
Thank you. Mutual masturbation. We got into a diagram of the clitoris. We got into porn.
I've literally done this in the mirror since then, like the thing that she's done, because I was like, it so looks like a vagina.
I know. It's so simple and yet so complicated. But I really learned so much, and I just appreciated how open and comfortable she made us feel, listeners feel, about how like there's no wrong answer and like there's nothing wrong with you one way or the other.
Yeah.
And my biggest takeaway was that even having a low libido, like it doesn't mean you have to increase your sex drive. Like it's like whatever you want to do, you know? And I appreciate that because I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves to be like, why don't I want sex all the time? Or what does that say about me or my relationship? And it's just like not that deep if you're not that stressed about it. Like if you're not stressed about it, don't stress about it.
Just do you. Literally.
Totally.
Life lessons.
And I love that.
Yep. Just do you.
Life lessons. Do you want to give us some of your takeaways?
Sure. I can go first. Okay, so I have 2 parts. I have takeaways, but then I also have like some things that we said along the way that I was like, I'm just going to do some research on this. So my first takeaway though was the difference between intimacy and desire. And so I went and looked up, because I also love Esther Perel, who she brought up, who's a relationship therapist. And she said, intimacy is the feeling of closeness, safety, and being deeply known by someone. It's built through trust, familiarity, and emotional connection. And desire is the feeling of wanting or being drawn to someone. It thrives on distance, mystery, and the sense that there's still something new to discover. So in Esther Perel's words exactly, love wants to close the distance. Desire needs space to come alive.
Yeah.
Which is
so interesting.
Wild, because you're like, it feels like in relationships you want both of those things at the same time. And what we're hearing is that it's really hard to do that, and or you have to set yourself up for that. So I thought that was really interesting.
Or that they're almost like mutually exclusive, where it's like you almost like in having intimacy, you need to know someone so deeply, and desire requires you to actually not know someone that deeply. So they like arguably like they can't exist at the same time. She mentioned, like whatever role play and things like that you can like bring it back into like a long-standing relationship. But
so do you think that in the olden days when they were like distance makes the heart grow fonder, they were talking about desire?
Probably because they weren't in contact with each other 100% of the time,
or
all
like
the time.
one lived in one tower and one lived in the other, and the distance,
You're talking like
I'm talking medieval times.
It's talking like pre-internet, but you're right. I mean, it predates, but it's so true. Like the fact we know too much about each other, and that takes away some of the mystery. So I think, my takeaway from that is like, again, taking the pressure off to feel that like intense desire that you are used to or you crave when like you're in a new relationship or you're hooking up with multiple people. It's like when you're in a long-standing relationship, maybe that like it's very normal and actually like by design that you don't feel those same emotions. So like chasing that is just like, doing a disservice potentially. I don't know. Everyone's different. I'm sure there's plenty of people listening like, I've got it,
I know. And love that for them. Happy days for them. My other one was that smut is potentially damaging us, and I'm so upset about it because, well, I can speak on behalf of Lundie and I that we love Fourth Wing and we love all of these books that have come out, and I'm like, what do you mean that Stephen can't be this fairy goddess man who rips his clothes off and runs on all fours through the jungle? Like, that is what I now picture.
You're like, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm picturing. So, Stephen.
I know.
That's so funny. But to that point, also, like she was saying around porn, which, not necessarily the same thing, but like it can be good in terms of like education and whatever. If you use it as like a tool to turn yourself on or whatever, great. But I think, we have these expectations, maybe not so much so of like fairy men, but like just like in general, like what sex is supposed to look like or feel like. And it's just like, you gotta take the pressure off.
Totally. Oh my God. Well, on that, just as on topic and not at the same time, down the road from us at our new Airbnb, there's a shop that's for smut only, and it's all pink, and you go in and it's literally like pink walls, pink ceiling, pink floor, all the books you can possibly, it's like extra extreme raunchy smut, like ease your way into it. And then they have some like back secret room that I haven't gone into yet, but I heard the lady being to someone else like, do you want to come into our secret room?
Interesting. Do people go and like read?
You just go in. It's very cute. It's like you go in and you find your book, your romance book. It's very cute. I'll take a video and I'll post it so people can see it.
Take a video, maybe. Maybe we'll put a link. Yes. If you're ever in Toronto.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But yes, smut. I love smut, but it is to adjust my expectations of our partners.
I thought one of the biggest takeaways for me was her explanation of spontaneous versus responsive arousal, I guess, I think is what she was referring to, and how there's an inverse relationship between how much women feel one and men feel another. So men get turned on more often on the spot, see something, they're ready to go. Women more often than not need to like get turned on in response to something, like probably like a series of things. And the fact that it's literally like I think she said 70-30 or something, and it's actually the inverse. It's like so funny how different men and women are. And again, we just don't like, we don't know that. No. And so this pressure on ourselves for like keeping up. And it's like, no, we're literally
the opposite.
Different. But the opposite biologically.
Yeah.
So I found that really interesting. The other two things that I put down are, she said the largest sex organ is your brain.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I think it's like so much more of a mental game, especially for women, again, than we give ourselves credit for. So like there's, and we got a lot going on up there. So, sex is just one of those. And also how much it changes throughout our lives, women's lives. And I appreciated that she busted the myth that your libido naturally declines in age.
Yeah.
She actually said she knows plenty of women who post-menopause like a total reawakening and like enjoy sex or, desire sex like way more than they ever have in their whole lives. And we love to hear that.
Yep.
So, we're dynamic beings, us women.
Us women.
Science
We're
is
complex. Complexity.
We are complex.
Yeah. I've got to do my fact checks. Yeah. Okay. So, first one, she spoke about STIs in retirement homes. Speaking of people having great sex life at an older age. Okay, so this is what ChatGPT said to me. Across older age groups, meaning 65 plus, cases of STIs like chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis have risen significantly over the past decade. For example, one U.S. study found that those aged 65 and over, chlamydia cases more than tripled between 2010 and 2023, and Gonorrhea increased 6-fold and syphilis rose nearly 10-fold. Some commentary and smaller studies suggest that settings like nursing homes might be a contributing factor because older adults in communal living environments may have opportunities for new sexual partners or relationships. It does say also, condom use is often very low in older adults because pregnancy isn't a concern.
That's actually, it sounds so stupid, but I didn't consider that. Like in postmenopausal women, you don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
So no wonder there would be an increase potentially in STIs because you aren't using protection. Exactly. That is so interesting.
I know. So funny. Okay. That was the first one.
Whatever floats your boat.
Second one was the question about foot fetishes. And so I looked it up and it said, yes, that's actually a leading scientific theory. Neuroscientists have found that the parts of the brain, the somatosensory cortex that processes sensations from the feet and from the genitals are located right next to each other. Because those areas can sometimes crosstalk, the simulation or imagery related to feet can trigger arousal pathways that usually respond to sexual or intimate touch. Crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah. In short proximity in the sensory map, the homunculus, so many new words we learned on this podcast, can blur signals between the feet and the genital sensations.
That is so interesting. Science is crazy.
Did I bring up about how some people stop being into their partners after cutting off birth control because the scent was different? So it says, yes, it can happen and more common than people think. Losing attraction or feeling off towards your partner after starting or stopping birth control isn't a character flaw, it's biochemical. The hormonal birth control changes your brain chemistry, blah, blah, blah. So yes, your attraction to your partner can feel different on versus off certain methods of birth control.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I've only ever been on birth control with
same
my beloved partner.
And we got married, so we're stuck.
So report back.
Yeah, I will. When we come off birth control, we'll let you know.
So yeah, truly so interesting. So important.
It is important.
Important things to know.
It is important.
So thanks to Hannah. Follow the Libido Fairy.
Yeah.
I've loved all of her content. Honestly, she does great stuff.
Loved it.
And yeah, maybe we'll have her on for part 2. Let us know what else you want us to dive into when it comes to sex drive and sex.
Not sex drive, libido.
Here. Sorry, libido. Yeah, sex drive doesn't exist.
Sex drive doesn't exist.
Libido.
When you want to chat more about your libidos, we can do a part 2. Okay. Knowledge is power. Right. Let's fucking go.
See you next week.
Woo-hoo. Join us next Tuesday when we're asking, what the fuck is a mortgage? To one of the US's top female mortgage officers, Kristen Ambos. Kristen tells us when we should be renting versus buying, what questions to come ready with to your potential loan officer, and how to make sure you're first in line when you put an offer in on a house. See you next Tuesday.